Hello everybody, this is Colin. Welcome to my channel again. In this video, I'm going to share with you my honest take on a new launch condo that's coming up on the 11th of November in the Lentor cluster. The name of the condo is Hillock Green. Now, if this is the first time you are seeing me or visiting my channel, welcome very much. Thank you very much for joining me today. If you happen to have watched my earlier new launch review video on another condo which is coming up also on the same day on 11th of November. The name is Jaden. I did a very thorough and comprehensive review in that video, and the whole video actually was about 38 minutes long. I will paste the link somewhere around this video here. You can click on the link and go and find out more. Inside the video, I shared a lot of little heard or little known facts about Jaden, which is not commonly heard, in the media or amongst property agents. So this is my style. I just like to share very honest and truthful opinion about the property market. Hopefully it benefits you as an investor or home buyer. Now, let's hop on to Hillock Green right away. All right. Now, let's talk about some project features. Hillock Green is the third condo that's coming up in the Lentor cluster, after Lentor Modern and Lentor Hill Residences. Who is the developer? It is a joint venture between three parties: 4Cs Holdings, Soy Build, as well as United Engineers. Right. Now, what is interesting to take note is that so far in the Lentor cluster, 6 pieces of land has been sold by the government. All right. And out of the 6 pieces of land, to date, 6 plots of land. Okay, 6 plots of land have been sold. Only 1 plot, and this is the plot. Okay, Hillock Green is the only plot that is bought by a developer which is not related to COLIN or Hong Leong. All right. So Hong Leong and COLIN has probably dominated the Lentor cluster. They own 5 plots of the land that government has sold. Okay. So as I said, this is the third plot that's coming up in the Lentor cluster. It is going to have 2 blocks total of about 474 units, 2 residential blocks. The orientation is north-south facing. So as you can see from the site plan here, they are staggered in such a way that they are not blocking each other, right? But if you look at the location map, there will still be some blockage in let's say towards the north. Some units may still see the Lentor Modern, and towards the south, maybe they will still see the Hillock Green. All right. Now, moving very quickly to the unit mix, what we notice is that in the Lentor cluster, developers, especially COLIN, started off with the Lentor Modern as well as the Lentor Hill Residences. They obviously have a strategy in mind, and because this is an OCR property, so you'll notice that a lot of the units they built are actually 3 and 4 bedrooms, the bigger units. Now, typically in the new condo, sometimes the developer can build up to 70% of 1 and 2 bedders, right? We see a lot of this in maybe the CCR property. But obviously, if you look at, let's say, Lentor Modern, you can see that 48% are 1 and 2 bedrooms, which is a relatively low percentage for new launch condo. The other 52% are made up of 3 and 4 bedrooms. Now, if we move on to the next condo, the second condo that was launched, Lentor Hill Residences, it was launched in July this year. We see that similarly, there are also about 48-49% of the units, only 48-49% of the units are 1 bedders and 2 bedders, all right? The other 50%, slightly more than 50%, are 3 and 4 bedders. Now, moving on to Hillock Green, which is the launch that's coming up on the 11th of November, we see a similar pattern. Even though Hillock Green, the developer, is not related to COLIN or Hong Leong, we see that probably they, the developers here, the joint venture here, they look at how Lentor Modern and Lentor Hills Residences have performed over the last 2 launches, and they decided to, in a way, model after them. So we can see that the 1 and 2 bedrooms in Hillock Green, they are all together coming up to about 45% of the total units, which is very similar to about 48% that has been done previously by COLIN and Hong Leong. Okay, so that's for the unit mix. So obviously, I think the focus here is developers are aware that this is an OCR property. They want to focus on homestay, not so much of investors. That's why they cater more for the families, and they know that families usually require bigger space, so they build more of the 3 and 4 bedrooms. Okay, obviously tapping into the HDB market. Now, let's move on to location and transportation. Hillock Green has got probably the second best location in the entire Lentor cluster of that 6 or 7 plots of land. Of course, Lentor Modern is the best because it is so-called an integrated development directly linked to the mall as well as the MRT station. Besides Lentor Modern, we have Hillock Green. All right, we have Hillock Green. And Hillock Green is going to be the second closest to the MRT, and with a sheltered walkway, of course, to the MRT, right? And also, it is 1 kilometer. It's going to be 1 kilometer to Anderson's Primary School as well as St. Nicholas Girls' School, right? So the tagline for the developer, according to AgeProp, is that what they say is that it's 1 minute to Hillock Park, which is just next to it, 2 minutes to the mall, and 3 minutes to the MRT station. Okay, right. Now, let's move on to expected pricing. I think this is where it gets a bit more interesting because the usual stuff, like, for example, those things like, the facts of the project, facts of the development, like, for example, the floor plan, the site plan. I think most of the time, new condos nowadays, more or less, they look the same. Okay, there's so much variation in terms of the floor plan. 1 bedroom, roughly it's like this. 2 bedroom, it's like that. So there's so much variation there. So what I want to spend more actually is to talk about, the expected pricing, the investment potential, the outlook, whether is it ultimately answers the question, should you be buying into Hillock Green? What are the pros and cons you should consider? Okay, so let's start off with expected pricing. Now, if you compare so far the 6 plots of land that have been sold in the Lentor area, all right, you'll find a few similar patterns here, all right, one or two similar patterns. Okay, so those highlighted in red, they are all bought by Hong Leong. You can see that Hong Leong or GoCoLand related companies. Okay, so out of the 6 plots of land that were sold so far by the government, Hong Leong and GoCoLand have bought 5 pieces of those plot of land, right? So they are highlighted in red. The one that is marked in green, is Hillock Green, right? That is the only plot of land that is not bought by a Hong Leong or GoCoLand related entity, all right? So what I want to point out to you is that compared to the performance in terms of the government land sale, okay, how much was this plot of land sold? Now we can see that it was sold at about 1,108 PSF PPR. Okay, so the developer bought this piece of land at this price. The previous 2 plots of land, Lentor Modern, they paid higher, developer paid higher at $1,204. And then moving on to the second plot, which is Lentor Hills Residences, it was slightly lower at $1,060 PSF PPR. So for Hillock Green, the price is almost there, about $1,100. Okay, so this is the land cost. This is the land cost, right? So what is the expected launch price? Can we foreseeably safely predict that it's going to be launched on 11th of November? This is going to be interesting because the thing here is that we have got precedents here. Look at the performance of Lentor Modern and Lentor Hills. All right, we know that, safe to say, if we look at the caveats, the pricing is about 2001 to 2003 per square foot. Okay, PSF, right? So we can look at the performance here. The average price is about 2001. Of course, some bigger units are cheaper, maybe 2000 or 2009. Smaller units are maybe higher, 2003, 2004. But average, we're talking about 2001 PSF, right? For Lentor Modern and Lentor Hills. So moving to Hillock Green, I think it is safe to assume that the developer here will remain at this price. The developer will launch Hillock Green about this kind of price, 2001. So maybe the bigger units, they can go below 2000, like maybe 2009 plus. The smaller units, maybe they can go up to maybe 2.3 or maximum 2.4, but average it will be about 2.1. Okay, now there's a very strong reason for stating this prediction, because the entire Lentor cluster is already, dominated by COLIN and Hong Leong. So this developer, the joint parties, the three parties coming in to develop Hillock Green, seriously, they don't have much leeway to be very different. If they price it, at 2004, 2005, 2006, like some of the condos we see these days, like for example, Reserve or Continuum, those kind of prices, which is on a slightly higher side, I think they will probably, suffer during the launch, because the buyers can simply, buy the fourth or the fifth, new launch that's going to come up, in maybe next year, right? In fact, the land has already been sold already, right? So it's just waiting, maybe next year, sometime next year, the fourth and the fifth plot of land will be launched again by Hong Leong and COLIN, right? So I think for this one, Hillock Green will not dare to be priced too aggressively, because they may losing customers. At the same time, they also will not underprice the market, because if they know that this is the expected performance, judging from the two previous launches, right? They can safely say that if I go at 2001, I think I should be able to sell maybe 40 to 50% on maybe a preview day, right? So this is, I think, the kind of price that we are reasonable to expect, okay, for Hillock Green. Now, in terms of the percentage sold so far for Lentor Modern and Lentor Hills, how much has it been sold? For Lentor Modern is almost, I think, about 90% sold already, right? As you can see from this table, right? 605 units Lentor Modern, 587 units sold. For Lentor Hills, 598 units, 418 units sold. So it is actually an extremely healthy percentage compared to some of the other launches you see in the market. They were launched like 2 years ago. They're still struggling to sell their units. They are not even 50% sold. I think those are really, bad ones. Okay. So for this performance in Lentor, I think based on the pricing, this is the kind of expectation I think is reasonable. All right. Now, if you look at the resale market, Panorama today, I think is the best, reference, best proxy to look at, how from another angle, we can see how realistic, do we expect Hillock Green to be launched. If Panorama today is doing about 1,008 to 1,009 PSF, 1,008 to 1,009 PSF, I think for a premium of about $200 to $300, you can buy Hillock Green. I think that's extremely reasonable, right? But if let's say Hillock Green goes up to about 2004, 2005, then I think the gap is a bit too wide, right? So also the secondary market, let's say Panorama, which is probably the highest price resale condo in the Ang Mo Kio, Yio Chu Kang region, if it's doing currently at 1,008, 1,009, I think it's reasonable to assume that Hillock Green going for 2001, I think is justifiable. All right. Now, in terms of the pricing, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms are going at about 1.1, 1.2 million. Okay, so that's not very important. I don't want to talk too much about that. 3 bedroom, probably, according to developer, they mentioned that is about, below, from 1.8 million. Now, maybe those are the smaller ones, like maybe 900 plus square feet. But if you want to buy a decent size 3 bedroom, maybe about 1,001 square feet and above, probably you need to pay about 2 million to 2.3, 2.4 million, that kind of price range. Okay. Now, moving on to the crux of the presentation is the oversupply issue. I know some people are worried about this, whether Lentor is there an oversupply issue. Of course, some people say no, some people say yes. So what is my take on this oversupply issue? I try to look at it, of course, in terms of quantifiable data, right? So because if you just want to think about, suddenly government is selling a lot of land in Lentor area and there may be an oversupply issue, but we need some kind of, evidence to back up the argument, you see. So I think if we look at Lentor cluster, 6 plots of land, total is going to yield about 3,000 units from these 6 plots of land, okay? 3,000 units. Now, is 3,000 units coming up in Lentor within a space of, the next few years? Is it going to be an oversupply issue? Okay, we try to look at a few different examples in other parts of Singapore and let them give us a sense of reference to decide whether Lentor is going to face an oversupply issue or not, okay? Now, the first place I want to look at is Tampines, okay? Tampines, if you recall, we have got the biggest condo in the whole of Singapore. And the name of the condo is Treasures at Tampines. It was the en bloc of the former Tampines Court. And Treasures at Tampines today has just obtained TOP. It is how many units? 2,203 units. So let's make it simple, 2,200 units. 2,200 units. So now almost all the owners have collected keys already. Those who want to sell will sell. Those who want to rent out can rent out. Those who want to stay will stay. So obviously some people may want to sell. So now the question is, if an owner in Tampines Treasure wants to sell, will there be an oversupply issue? Will there be too much competition coming within amongst all the owners, amongst the neighbors, you see, right? Of course, now we don't have a lot of, caveats or resale transaction to back up because Treasures at Tampines just got TOP. But what we can look at is who are the potential buyers going to be, all right? Now, Treasures at Tampines, located in Tampines, I would foresee most of the buyers will be coming from the east area, maybe Tampines, Bedok, Pasir Ris, Simei, these kind of places, right? Most of the buyers should be coming from there. Of course, as a new launch, when developers sell a new launch, we can have all sorts of buyers. We can have investors, we can have homestayers, and they can come from all parts of Singapore. Especially investors, they can buy another property, in the other corner of Singapore. They don't need to buy somewhere close to them. Right, but now we're talking about the secondary market. If someone in Treasures wants to sell their unit, whether it's a 1-bedroom or 4-bedroom, I think the likelihood of a buyer coming to buy a unit in Treasures will likely come from the east. All right, and again, we are talking about OCR region. I think it is safe to say that okay, the buyer is coming from the east, and also the buyer is likely going to be a HDB upgrader. Maybe looking to buy a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, all right? Okay, so I think those are very logical statements. Now, if we look at the entire Tampines area, how many HDB dwellings are there? Okay, so this one we need to go and look at statistics, okay? And we can find these kind of statistics, online. There are about 75,000 HDB dwellings in the entire Tampines estate. Tampines, of course, consists of Tampines and Simei, all right? So now if we assume that 2,200 units in Treasures, okay? Let's assume all of them are going to sell. All owners are going to sell now. 2,200 units are selling now. Selling to who? Potentially someone who comes from Tampines, right? Let's say an upgrader from Tampines. And we are talking about how many are there? 75,000 dwelling units. So that is, if you compare the percentage, 2,002 divide 75,000, that is about 3%. 3%, all right? 3%, all right? So, okay, Tampines is about 3%. I know this may not be a very accurate way of, reflecting this thing, but this is just like a back of the envelope, sort of like a mental calculation, right? Now, another place which I want to look at is actually the Punggol Sengkang area, Punggol and Sengkang area, sorry, Punggol Sengkang Hougang area, right? Now, if you recall a few years ago, there were a few big launches going on in that area, especially the Hougang area, okay? 4 new condos launched almost at the same time. What's their name? If I can recall correctly, it's Affinity, Riverfront Residences, Florence Residences, as well as I think the other one is Garden Residences, if I remember correctly. Okay, right. Now, the thing is that for this four places, okay, yeah, 4 places, four new condos. Today, I think most of them have they obtained TOP? Yes, they have obtained TOP already. Okay, I think yeah, they have all obtained TOP right this year. How many units are there in these 4 condos collectively? It is about 4,500 units. 4,500 units. Now, remember, 4,500 units is actually double Tampines Treasure. Tampines Treasure is only 2,002. Okay, so we have double from these 4 condos in Hougang, Serangoon area. But potentially, where are the buyers going to come from? I will foresee it's going to come from Hougang, Serangoon, Sengkang, the Northeast cluster, right? And typically maybe a HDB upgrader. So how many HDB dwellings do we have, let's say in Sengkang, Punggol, Sengkang, Hougang, and Serangoon? Punggol is a bit far. Let's exclude Punggol, okay? Sengkang, Hougang, and Serangoon. We can see that there are about 150,000 dwellings. Now, if we take, again, a simple calculation, 4,500 units in the 4 condos, which I mentioned, divided by 150,000 HDB dwellings coming from Sengkang, Hougang, and Serangoon, we get a magical number again, 3%. Okay, 3%, magical number, 3%. 3% is the same as treasures, also 3%. All right. So if we look at Lentor cluster, okay, Lentor cluster, we know that eventually it's going to have 3,000 new units coming up, 3,000 new units coming up in the 6 plots of land, right? Eventually when it's fully developed. And potentially next time, you know, the owner, who can they sell to? Of course, I would think that someone living in Ang Mo Kio, HDB, upgrader will be the most likely because it is really near. Now, Yio Chu Kang, Springleaf, there are not many HDB there. The other nearest HDB cluster will be probably Yishun or Bishan. Right, of course, we can include Yishun and Bishan, but let's exclude it because they are quite large estates. All right, so I'm just afraid that it may distort the numbers here. Okay, so if we look at Ang Mo Kio as a HDB estate, how many dwellings do we have? 50,000, about 50,000. Okay, 50,000. Now we have got 3,000 new units coming out in Lentor cluster, 3,000 private residential units coming out in Lentor cluster, and now we are fighting for about 50,000 HDB upgraders coming from HDB estate. That is about 6%. 6%. What does this mean? So this means that Lentor cluster may not have, it appears to me, of course, this is my opinion, it appears to me that Lentor cluster may not have sufficient HDB, you know, dwellers in terms of HDB numbers to support the kind of secondary market. There will still be some transactions, but maybe the transactions may be a bit slower, all right? Because Ang Mo Kio is only 50,000. It is not like Tampines, we have 75,000. It's not like the Northeast area, we have got like, you know, 150,000, right? So now we're talking about 3,000 new units coming out in the Lentor clusters, and potentially, you know, who are the people who are going to buy, you know, Lentor, you know, Lentor condo in the secondary market? I would think that unlikely going to be an investor, okay? Most likely it's going to be someone who comes from the central or north area, right? And if we look at Ang Mo Kio itself as an estate, 50,000 dwellings, the numbers may be a bit low to support these 3,000 new units, right? So if, let's say, of course, if we include Yishun, let's say we assume that some people in Yishun may want to move closer to the city, and one of the, you know, entry, you know, location to consider may be the Lentor cluster, right, in a few years' time. Then, of course, Yishun is a big town. It's about 70,000. Then, of course, the numbers may justify, right? But for now, if we just keep to Ang Mo Kio as a HDB estate with only 50,000 dwelling units, I think the numbers may point to the fact that it may not be able to support, okay? There may be some kind of oversupply issue there, all right? Now, in conclusion, what are the pros and cons of, you know, Hillock Green? I think the greatest advantage going for Hillock Green would be in terms of the pricing. In terms of the pricing, OCR property, you know, if let's say you buy it at about 2001, as what they say, 2001 PSF, you know, PPR, sorry, 2001 PSF, I think I would say in today's market is probably a reasonable entry price to a new launch, even in OCR, because if you look across the whole of Singapore, seriously, all the new launches today, they are selling for 2,000 at least. Whether it's OCR, CCR, or, you know, RCR, they are all going above 2,000. So if you can buy something which is still close to 2,000, like for example, Hillock Green, if it's really going for 2001 PSF, I think it is a good entry price that you can consider. Right, because if in future you want to sell it for 2004, 2005 PSF, some of the new launches today are already selling this kind of price already, right? So I think there's a kind of a discount there, a kind of a value, you know, give you some kind of advantage in terms of getting something which is really cheap in the market today for new launch, right? So I think that's the biggest advantage in terms of the pricing, even though it's OCR. If you just recall Tampines Treasure, you know, Treasures at Tampines, 2018, 2019, 2020, they were also selling very cheap. In fact, Treasures and Riverfront were the two cheapest condo 4 to 5 years ago as a new launch. You can buy their units at 1,002 PSF, 1,002 PSF, right? The whole of Singapore, only these two, Riverfront and Treasures, only these two. So, okay, disregard the location, disregard whether it's Hougang or Tampines. But if you had bought Riverfront or Treasures, back in 2018 or 2019. Today, you make money. You know, Riverfront is already selling at 1,600 already. Treasures, I believe those people are also going to sell at 1,600. And can they move at 1,600? I believe yes, because if logically you look at the market today, 1,600, you buy a new launch condo, just TOP, for own stay, let's say for own stay. Seriously, how can you find, even the resale market, a lot of those, you know, condos are already going to for at least for 1,300, 1,500 already, and these are resale. They are older, you know, it may not be so new. And for 1,600, you buy a brand new condo, just TOP in Tampines or Hougang. I think there are buyers who will buy this, right? So the thing here, what I'm trying to say is that biggest advantage for Hillock Green is the entry price. If it's really cheap, I think you can consider. Now, the other concern is what about the oversupply of the area? I think yes, oversupply is going to be there. Oversupply is going to be there. There will be some oversupply issue in the near term, right? Unless the government decides to build more HDB, let's say chop down the forest in the Tagore cluster, you know, Tagore area. I know there's quite a huge swath of land where it is reserved for, you know, residential housing. So if developers choose to remove those trees and build HDB, maybe after the HDB, you know, BTO, the MOP is over, you know, whatever, you know, people can buy as a Lentor, you know, that can be a consideration for them. But we are talking about easily another 10 years down the road. So the question is, do you want to wait these 10 years? Because during these 10 years, potentially there may be an oversupply issue. Okay, right. Now, the last consideration is there are the 4th and 5th and the 6th condo coming up in the Lentor cluster. Do you want to wait for them? Since developers actually have bought the land cheaper, less than $1,000 per square feet. Now, seriously, I don't think in this case, waiting for those, you know, the 4th, the 5th, or the 6th plot of land to be, the condos to be launched makes much sense, because you must understand this. COLIN and Hong Leong has already gained monopoly of the whole area. If Lentor Modern and Lentor Hills, they have sold at 2,001 per square feet. Even though the subsequent 4th, 5th, and 6th plot of land, the developers bought cheaper, but they are not going to launch cheaper. They are not going to launch, unlikely they're going to launch cheaper. They'll maintain the price integrity about 2,001 per square feet, so as to maintain the price and integrity of the whole Lentor cluster, because one single developer has a monopoly over the price. But of course, if those the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th plot of land are bought by another developer, not Hong Leong, not COLIN, then potentially, yes, this developer may undercut slightly. But in this case, I think it's extremely unlikely, because it is by the same developer. So even though, let's say, the 5th and the 6th plot of land are bought, you know, cheaper by the developer, unlikely they will also sell cheaper. They will sell still at the higher, same price as, you know, 2,001. In this case, they get a higher profit margin, of course. No, so I don't think it makes much sense to wait, right? So all in all, I think that for this Hillock Green, it is not exactly a bad condo. I won't say it's a bad condo, right? I think in terms of pricing, if it's really attractive on launch day, seriously, I think you can consider. But I think aside from pricing, that's the only thing that, you know, I find it, you know, I don't know, attractive, you know, because there are so many condos coming up there. In terms of differentiation, next time, as I said, you know, you want to sell, it's going to be a bit challenging, because maybe, you know, not enough HDB houses, you know, HDB upgraders to support the volume. But then again, you know, if the pricing is, you know, reasonable, I think you can consider that. Okay. Now, that comes to my end of my, you know, sharing on Hillock Green. I hope you have enjoyed my sharing and find it, you know, at least a different perspective of looking at this oversupply issue. Now, if you find my, you know, sharing meaningful and insightful, do subscribe to my channel, smash the like button, so that in future, when I do another video, you'll be notified. Till then, take care, and I'll catch you again. Bye.